Welcome to Facts TV News, where everything is true. Cat Core recuperating after surgery. Guitarist Stephen Cat Core, co-founder of Three World Band, is recuperating at University Hospital of the West Indies after undergoing surgery. Colin Leslie, his friend of more than 50 years, told reporters, Core was taken to Andrews Memorial Hospital after excessive vomiting last Sunday. He was then transferred to UHWI, where he underwent surgery. Leslie disclosed that the veteran musician will be unable to eat for several days as he recovers. But as we speak, the surgery went well and he's off the ward, said Leslie. Core 65 was one of the early members of the Inner Circle before leaving to start Three World with keyboardist Ibo Cooper. The band toured the United Kingdom with Bob Marley and the Wailers in 1975. 1 year later, their self-titled album was released by Island Records. 96 Degrees in the Shade, Try Your Love, Know That We Found Love, and Sense of Purpose are some of the band's best-known songs. Core and bass guitarist Richie Daly are the survivors from Three World Classic lineup from the 1970s and 1980s. Their previous album, More Work to Be Done, was nominated for a 2020 Grammy Award in the Best Reggae Album category. Online portal launch for motorists to track outstanding traffic tickets. The state has made it easier for motorists to inquire about their outstanding tickets with the launch of an online portal. Justice Minister Delroy Chuck made the announcement at the commissioning of 40 Justices of the Peace in St. Anne on Thursday. Stressing that there are more than 1 million outstanding traffic tickets, Mr. Chuck said hundreds of motorists have violated the road code and are yet to pay the fines. Mr. Chuck said motorists will be able to access the portal on December 8. What I can tell you is that we have now mapped out every single unpaid traffic ticket, and that matrix, that information is going to be on a website. Anyone who has ever had a ticket can look if you have not paid it and see your name and the date and the time that you violated, because if you don't pay it, there will be consequences, he warned. He further stated while highlighting what he calls the audacity of tax operators to suggest that they should be given payment plan to clear outstanding tickets, stressed that the government will not back down on its effort to prosecute unruly motorists. He revealed that there are more than 2,000 drivers with more than 100 traffic tickets and nearly 500 drivers with close to 500 tickets each. These are people collecting traffic tickets for confetti, and when they get it, they never knew that they were going to pay? That time will catch up on them? He questioned. With 70% of cases filed in court ring from traffic ticket, Mr. Chung explained that this is a problem. He also noted that nearly 50% of tickets issued by the police end up in the traffic court. Mr. Chuck said taxi operators are wasting their time calling for the Ministry of Transport to implement a payment plan to help them get rid of outstanding tickets, as this could be interfering with the rule of law and the court process. He said the Ministry of Justice will work to facilitate Chief Justice called for night and Saturday court sitting so payment can be made. The ministry urged motorists who have outstanding tickets to go and pay them quickly. DPP defends reliance on plea bargain. Director of Public Prosecution DPP Paula Llewellyn, King's Cons, has defended her office's reliance on the Criminal Justice Plea Negotiation and Agreement Act to get guilty pleas from criminals. She argued that if such negotiation can lead to the taking down of networks, the public's best interest has been served. The DPP, who was speaking at the recent two-day conference hosted by the National Police Academy on the new Firearms Act in Twickenham Park, St. Catherine, said the plea negotiations legislation has become a part of her office's toolkit despite some amount of hesitancy from several quarters. As investigators, we, in a way that cannot even be appreciated by the court or defense counsel or the public, have to use strategy, even in terms of emotional intelligence, in addition to being astute, all of which will be underpinned by your knowledge of the legislation to be able to persuade persons to assist in investigations and prosecutions. Right now, we at the office of the DPP are using the Plea Negotiation Act quite a bit, Llewellyn said. The DPP said her office, in collaboration with the National Intelligence Bureau and the Criminal Investigations Branch, has used this approach with several high-profile cases, including that of social media influencer Anika Sikiana 1000, popular port and businessman Everton Beaches South, and the Clarendon-based Bloods Gang. So many cases, we are behind the scenes, unknown to social media. We have been contacting during the investigative process, and we work together, putting our minds together using our experience and knowledge of the law and using investigative knowledge on the ground, the DPP said. Noting that some members of the bench, judges, might not appreciate this approach, the DPP said, which is why it is our role and function to decide who we are going to prosecute and what we are going to prosecute them for, because it will always be in the public good that if perhaps you can get a man who will plead guilty perhaps to one charge and will be able to bring down 10 others, then it is for us in the trenches on the ground to decide in the interest of justice what is the best way to go. She, however, noted that only way the approach could be fully beneficial was if there is communication between law enforcement and prosecutors. Referring to the new Firearms Act, which came into force November, the DPP said, it is a prosecution which comprises law enforcement and the Crown, who will be in the trenches in the implementation of this legislation. It is the prosecution who must interfere with charges and arresting persons, who will have to interfere with witnesses, and where I say witnesses, with this legislation contemplates in an enhancement of the scenarios where we may not even have more persons who themselves are facing charges who may plead guilty but seek to assist the prosecution in giving evidence. The DPP, who is promoting robust prosecution under the new provision, told the police, "This is not a time when we should work in solace. This is not a time when anybody should want to show how much they can beat the chest because you are doing so well, so you're going to leave this and not communicate to your colleagues. This is a time when it is all hands on deck, and I undertake, as DPP, as usual, to give the support through my staff. So there will be no excuse going forward when we see a big lapse and we say, so why didn't you contact us? We understand that's why new legislation there has to be enhanced communication, and we're going to go through this together. Most importantly, for Jamaica's sake, look at the dividends that's bearing fruit," she said. Under the new Firearms Act, individuals implicated in gun crimes will not be allowed to enter into plea bargain arrangements unless they fulfill certain obligations. According to the Act, those obligations should include the provision of information that assists the Crown in the prevention, detention, or investigation of, or in proceeding relating to, the offense concerned or any other offenses. The intention is to encourage offenders to provide critical information to support the state in tackling the proliferation of illicit firearms and other transnational organized criminal activities. In September, Commissioner of Police Major General Anthony Anderson lauded the new legislation, which he said means that for those persons in the illegal gun trade, whether you possess it, traffic it, transport it, bring it into the country, or whatever you do with it, you will be facing sentences of 15 years and upwards. He added, for us as police officers, this will make a huge difference because the police force has seen these people like a revolving door. They've been in our custody, they've been charged for illegal gun, they pay their fine, they've gotten this 1 year, and they are back out doing the same thing that they were doing before. Already under the new legislation, a gun amnesty was implemented, netting over 100 illegal firearms and 3,000 rounds of ammunition to the police. Please remember to subscribe, like, share, and click the notification bell